Yes, tell us how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. That's what I prepped my slides for. It's kind of to tell my story, mainly because when I was starting this transition to get into the job and the career I have now, I had no idea how to get started and what my first step should be. So I'm kind of hoping to help promote my story to help others that if they're curious about this industry and the operator path in particular, hopefully this will kind of lay out that transition and give them some ideas as to how to get started. So that's my plan for today. So cool. All right. Well, thank you, Dennis, for that introduction. And I guess I don't need to say any more before I go ahead and jump in here. So let me see if my buttons are working. Cool. Perfect. So a little bit about me and my background. I am originally from Petaluma, which is up in Sonoma County, if you guys are familiar with the Bay Area, which I hope everyone is, since we're talking about Silicon Valley here. My parents, my mom actually works for county government here in Marin County. She has my whole life. And then my dad actually owns a machine shop. So that's where I kind of started a little bit of my mechanical skills. So that's where you see my picture over here when I was in high school helping my dad. I then transitioned to college. After high school, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I studied agricultural business. And the reason why I did that is my goal was to hopefully get into the wine industry. Unfortunately, when I got to Cal Poly, their wine minor was impacted. Too many people, not enough professors, so they just got rid of that minor altogether. So unfortunately with that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So that kind of transitioned me into, as Dennis mentioned, going to San Francisco and having a sales career in technology. It wasn't my favorite thing. I was not totally in love with it. I just felt stuck once I got in, and I didn't know how to transition out without losing my independence and having to move back in with my parents, because starting a new career, usually you're going back down that pay scale, right? And I was getting paid pretty well in San Francisco. So I stuck around for about 5 years. Like I said, not my favorite thing. I got laid off a few times. I was at a new company almost every year. So it just was something that I just felt like I was chugging along in life and not really having a plan. Now, with that came our friend COVID here. So I actually was part of an early layoff in April 2020. Ironic, April 1st, April Fool's Day. It was actually my 1-year anniversary with the company, and I got laid off at 8:30 a.m. that day. So little rough, but it happened. And unfortunately for a lot of my former colleagues, it is still happening in that industry today. So this kind of gave me the ability to go back home, reset, figure out what it is I wanted to do, because it just wasn't working for me in the tech industry, and I needed to find something else, something that I'm passionate about, right? That's all what we want to do every day, is do something that we love. So with that, I started interviewing friends, neighbors, figuring out what their careers were, how they got there, just essentially trying to find something that was going to work for me. Do a little bit of soul searching, if you will. So with that, I actually landed on either wastewater treatment or agricultural appraisal. And that's when I decided, you know what, we're just going to go with wastewater treatment. So, let's get started with that path. So a lot of people ask me, why wastewater? Like, that's just so different. You're female, you're going into the industry, you're going to be an operator, you're going to touch poop every day. Why that? My answer to that question is really, I'm very math oriented. That's always been a strong suit for me, and I enjoy it. So we do a little bit of math every day. Science, I always loved science. Wasn't my best subject ever, but it was always very interesting. And I do get to look under the microscope and look at our bug friends, as I like to call them, on almost a daily basis when I have time. I also wanted a job where I was going to be able to be inside, outside, not doing the same exact thing every single day. It differs, right? It really depends on what's going on at the plant. So that was something intriguing to me. And then in the bottom right-hand corner here, I wanted a career that's what I called pandemic proof. I didn't want to go through that process again of losing my entire career and kind of having to start over from scratch just because of a huge round of layoffs. And again, that's unfortunately continuously happening in the tech sector. So I'm really glad that I am out of there and not having to scramble for my life essentially on a unfortunately frequent basis. So how I got started, I decided to go back to school and focus on my associate's degree in wastewater treatment operations. There are quite a few programs in California specifically, but I decided to go with Santa Rosa Junior College, not only because it was local, but I had a friend that did that program and loved it. So I started that. And then as Dennis mentioned, after my fun employment time there for a little bit in 2020, I started a seasonal job with Gallo where I was a sugar sampler. So I got to the vineyards, take samples, crush the grapes, measure the sugar content, which is called bricks, bottle up those samples and send it to the lab. I also started utilizing heavy machinery as well as working on sanitizing and disinfecting all the equipment. So that gave me a little bit of background to work on things that I do today. Once that concluded with harvest in October, I then became a lab tech at a local lab. And essentially I was working on chains of custodies, which I do on a daily basis here. I was helping prep samples for the labs. I was calibrating equipment. So again, all these small little jobs I was doing, my goal was to kind of help me prep for an operator job in the future. Now that's not always going to happen, but the stars did align with me, and that ultimately led me to my first position in the wastewater industry, which was Lake County. And mind you, during this time, I cannot tell you how many applications I was sending out up and down the state of California. Didn't care where, I was willing to relocate just as long as I could get my foot in the door. And that was the main goal. So that's when I started with Lake County. And this was my first day. It was raining pretty hard, but I had to take a proud little selfie. So I was up at Lake County for about 10 months. And during my time there, I really wanted to focus on just hitting the ground running hard. So I went ahead and did 3 state exams within 6 months of each other. So these were specifically with the water board. So that was the wastewater treatment grade 2, water treatment grade 2, and water distribution grade 2. So I was able to get all those done within 6 months, and I was very, very proud of myself. That is really ambitious, but like I said, I wanted to just absolutely crush. And so that's what I focused on. I also graduated from Santa Rosa Junior College during that time. Forgot to mention that actually was all online because of COVID. So that actually helped me because I wouldn't have been able to attend classes otherwise, but was able to receive that as well. And I really continued networking. That was a huge proponent for me. So actually what I did is I contacted a former class speaker that we had that worked down here in Tiburon and made sure that I was on the right path for my career, doing the right things. And ultimately that led to a job opening where I contacted him again for a tour, which helped me get the next job here down at Tiburon, which is where I'm currently at. So this allowed me to move back home to Petaluma, be closer to my family, and be in an area that I'm familiar with and I absolutely love. And I mean, who can beat that view every day? That's absolutely beautiful. We get to look at the Golden Gate Bridge from our plant every single day. So it's really cool. So stuff that I've been doing here since my time, and I actually just had my 1-year mark last week. So really proud of myself for that. I have gotten now my grade 3 certification. So I actually became a certified operator here back in May, and then I received my grade 3 certification last month. So really proud of myself for that. I did also receive my collections and maintenance grade 1 from CWEA. So that was another thing that I did. And then as So you can see here, I do look at my bug friends every day. So here's a couple of pictures of some stock ciliate. It's just, I find that really interesting. So I think it's really cool. I get to see what's going on inside our tanks at a microscopic level. And then over here on the right, I finally got what we call baptized, doing a little bit of cleaning and maintenance within our plant here. Oh, and I've also been doing a lot more volunteering with CWEA, which essentially led me here to Dennis and speaking with you all today. So another question I get asked is, how was the coursework, especially when it came to getting my degree with the JC or focusing on certificates. I find that it's pretty manageable. It just depends on how you're able to handle the coursework yourself or the load in terms of working full time and maybe going to school full time. The nice thing about the JC, as well as other community colleges up and down the state that have these types of programs like wastewater, water technology, they do have certificate programs as well. So if you're not interested in attending the JC for like a year or two to get your associates and do all of the other GE classes, you can just focus on a certificate path, which is what a lot of people do as well. I just went for my associates because I already had my bachelor's and all I need to do was the core classes to get that next degree. So one thing I do want to mention is a lot of people, when it comes to exams, have a little bit of difficulty with the math. So I highly suggest taking a couple math classes just to kind of get your brain in that aspect and ready for those exams, because that is a heavy portion when it comes to grading those exams and passing them to get your certifications. So talking about support, that's always a great topic. I like this quote here: surround yourself with supportive people, right? I think that's really important. I have quite a few friends who are local within the business, within the industry. So I'm always asking them for help or advice. One thing that I really like about this industry is everyone's willing to help each other. There's not really that competitive basis that I felt in the sales world where everyone's competing with each other for jobs and this and that. Everyone here, no matter where you're at, are always willing to give information, give help. They just want to see you succeed. And I think that that is awesome and super important, especially when it comes to making your jobs happy, right? Living happy lives and happy jobs. So that's something that I think is really great about this industry as well. In terms of support directly here at my current job, we do have educational incentives. So we will go ahead and financially pay you out for additional certificates that are not required by your job, which I think is awesome. We will also get reimbursed for any classes that we take. So I've made it a goal of mine to take an additional class, just one a semester, just to keep things going and maybe prep me for those additional certifications. And we also do event sponsorship as well. So if you want to go ahead and go to one of the CWEA conferences, our district will financially support you and sponsor you for that as well, which is really awesome. So keeping you going, right? So my unsolicited advice for anyone who's thinking about jumping in or kind of figuring out where to go with their career here is network. Network, network, network. That is ultimately what led me to where I am today, and also continued to give me those additional people that I can reach out to and led me to my job, right? Without that networking that I did, I probably wouldn't have my job today. So that is something that is absolutely huge. Kind of along with that, ask for tours. When I was starting out, I couldn't go on tours because everyone was closed because of COVID. So I'd highly, highly suggest, even if you're just interested and you really aren't, ready to take classes or what have you, just go take a tour. I love what Teresa mentioned earlier, where she's taking high school students and, they're coming in for a week or two to, do like a small internship or help out with stuff. I think that is huge. So tours, high on my list as well. Definitely do those and be curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if it's a quick email or LinkedIn message, just asking about how things work or what have you. Huge. And last two, take classes. I think that's always helpful, and it'll show initiative. And then if you fail, try again, because that will happen. It still happens to me on a daily basis, but you know, you just got to keep pushing. So, that is all I have, unless someone had any questions, but that's all I've got.
There is one question, a quick one that we can offer. This from John McKenna about the specific level of math classes do you recommend or are needed to prep for an operator career?
Yeah, so it depends how far you want to get. Everything in terms of water treatment, wastewater treatment is all algebra based. So there are some specific classes out there that are math for water and wastewater, which will focus directly on the formulas and the problems that you'll have, which is great. If you don't have a really strong math background, I would maybe even suggest taking an algebra class prior to that, just so that way you're a little ready for all the formulas that are going to be thrown at you for those specific classes. That's kind of my suggestion. There are via San Bernardino Valley College, they actually do have some math and test prep classes that are free. And you can go ahead and take those, and they'll have somebody helping you just essentially prep for the classes too, and that'll focus specifically on math.
Okay, so the takeaway is like more of an algebraic mindset as opposed to geometry or calculus even, you know, I mean, but
a wee bit of geometry, but again, all of the numbers you're going to be focusing on are algebra based.
Yeah, okay, well, very good. Well, thank you, Abby, and you have interesting tales to tell on you know, kind of career path and reinvention. And you know, one thing I was talking with Teresa Herrera yesterday, and just with the idea even that within wastewater treatment, you know, which is a relatively new field, I mean, you know, it's like Victorian era, you know, really it doesn't go back that far. I mean, you know, really late 19th century. And but there's been more invention and technology and science in the last 5, maybe 10 years than there has been since the 100, you know, 40 years of wastewater treatment. And there's so many things coming, you know, as well. But I mean, even just the issue of kind of disease, you know, the RNA analysis of wastewater as well, you know, which was supposed to be able to show flu outbreak and then got used for COVID, you know, as well. So very interesting place to be. And I love your thing about tours, and we will definitely take that mantle up as far as career fair type things and tours, and work with QIA. And one last question, do you know what QIA stands for?
I don't.
You know, they don't tell you either. I was just checking their website, and Alec Mackey, I know you're there. You need to tell us what QIA stands for.